Diversity can spur innovation, sustainability, and ultimately competitiveness. But how can it be generated and leveraged to tackle today's critical challenges? The latest Global Talent Competitiveness Index reveals key lessons from the leading countries in talent development. Here to tell us more are Bruno Lanvin, INSEE Executive Director of Global Indices, and Paul Evans, Academic Director of the report and Emeritus Professor of Organizational Behavior. Thank you for joining us. Welcome, Bruno. Welcome, Paul. What do the top countries in this year's GTCI teach us about the key factors of talent competitiveness?
Well, this year's ranking is pretty close to what we had last year. We still have Switzerland as number one. We have followed by Singapore, the US, then a fairly solid group of Nordic countries, including Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Finland, and as well other Northern European countries like the Netherlands and Luxembourg. As in previous year, Europe is still dominating these rankings, and Northern Europe significantly in that respect. The key factors in talent competitiveness continue to have to do with openness and education. In all these countries, the role of leadership, the ability to develop, implement, share, communicate a national vision is critically important. So is the steadiness with which education policies have been put in place. The examples of Switzerland, Singapore, and Finland are particularly telling in that respect.
So why diversity? What are the types of diversity mentioned in this year's GTCI, and how are they beneficial?
Well, in the 20th century, diversity was largely ignored. In classrooms, in companies, everybody was treated as if they were the same. HR policies oriented towards similar people, even government policies pitched towards the average citizen. Now today, 21st century, things are different. What counts is innovation and high performance. And when it comes down to this, what we know is that diverse teams trump individual talent. That's on complex tasks which require creative thought. You know, machines are much better at doing the sort of simple tasks, and as we said on GTCI last year, machines are taking over the simple tasks. Now, what's clear is that the type of diversity which really adds value is what we call cognitive diversity. Cognitive diversity is differences in experience and knowledge and perspective that people bring to the team, bring to the table. And companies around the world, sophisticated companies in the top 10, top 20 GTCI, they know that. You look at the composition of their management teams, you look at their project teams, and they're trying to capitalize on diversity. The difficulty here is that cognitive diversity is very difficult to judge. People, even HR people, tend to be not very good at these judgments about who and what sort of diversity is going to lead to creative performance. And there's a lot of people who believe that in the future, algorithms are going to do a better job of making sure that we get high-performing teams. One of those things that those algorithms can do is cut through what's called unconscious bias. We've got a lot of unconscious bias which rules out people with certain identities. Women, young people or old people, people who come from a different ethnic background.
How have lower and middle income economies fared in this year's GTCI?
Well, in this year's GTCI, we see some emerging countries performing in a pretty remarkable fashion. For instance, the United Arab Emirates is number 17 this year. We also see Qatar, 23rd. We see Malaysia, 27, and Chile, 33rd. We also see that countries with large populations remain challenged on the front of education and employment. This is the case of China, 43rd, but also of other large countries such as South Africa, Brazil, Indonesia, or India, which clearly could perform better if they were able to overcome some of the challenges related to education and providing the right mix between vocational and knowledge skills. Yet we see very encouraging signs across the world. For instance, Latin American countries are often leading the way in terms of female graduates. Argentina is number 5 in the world.
How can education improve inclusiveness and encourage diversity?
Well, in order to leverage diversity, we need the ability to collaborate with each other, and we have to overcome our unconscious biases. So we train people on MBA programs and in companies, but that is too late. We have to start off at school. We have to start off when children learn how to play with each other. We have to start off with projects that bring diverse children together so that they can get effective results with each other. In the past, the assumption behind educational systems was that everybody's the same. The premise today has to be that children are all different. Now, for example, the OECD has been arguing for these sorts of changes in our educational systems for the last 20 years. They have the PISA way of evaluating educational systems, PISA, the Program for International Student Assessment, with its 3 criteria: evaluating the mathematical ability, analytic ability of students, their verbal qualitative skills, and their ability to problem solve. So educational systems really have to evolve and advance if we're going to be able to capitalize on all of the potential behind diversity.
What suggestions, if any, do you have for organizations considering new diversity programs? How can it help talent competitiveness, not only on a national or urban scale, but at the company level?
Well, companies around the world, particularly in the top 10, the top 20 countries, know well the value of diversity. They're trying to tap into it with agile, diverse teams, for example. I mean, you take Google in high technology, for example, ING in banking, or Danfoss in electromechanical equipment. They're all trying to tap into diversity. But what they realize is it isn't quick and simple. To get the benefits of diversity, you have to have a more inclusive culture of your firm. And that's what's hard to work at, because it needs a lot of things. It means that leadership, top management, has to take diversity very, very seriously. It means changing your recruitment profile so that you're not recruiting your high potential people from the same elite schools. It means changing behaviors so that, for example, coaching people so that they pick up the non-verbal signals in teamwork which are so important. It means giving people the confidence to express their views. These sorts of changes, building a more inclusive organization to tap into the benefits of diversity, won't happen overnight. It's 4-5 years or more to build a more inclusive organization.
You cited Switzerland as a country that is sensitive to cognitive diversity. Could you tell us another country that leverages this or another type of diversity well? How do they manage?
The example of what Abu Dhabi did with creating the Louvre there, that is a museum which is not a local museum but a worldwide museum that compares and combines civilization in what they've been producing at their best, is quite remarkable. This is the kind of effort that shows that diversity can be indeed a source of value for everybody around the world. And GTCI shows this year that indeed this wealth of examples of experience is going to grow. To do that, we should not underestimate the cost. We should make sure that efforts to develop and leverage diversity are in agreement, in harmony with local history, with local culture, with local record. There's a difference between singing in unison and singing in harmony. If we want to sing in harmony, we have to foster diversity.
Thank you both very much for joining us at INSEAD Knowledge.
Thank you, Rachel.